Welcome to Spill the Tea with Josephine. Today we're talking to Amber Fisher, who writes mysteries about psychics, ghosts, fantastic beasts, and things that go bump in the night. So welcome to Spill the Tea with Josephine, and today we have Amber here with me, and she's going to tell us a little bit about her cozy mysteries and about herself. So Amber, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what got you interested in writing?
Oh my gosh, I feel like that's such a loaded question. So I'm originally from Los Angeles. I now live in Austin, Texas, where I have lived for 20 something years now. Can't imagine living anyplace else. I love it here. But writing, let's see, when did I start writing? I don't remember a time when I wasn't writing, to be perfectly honest with you. My mother likes to tell a story that she says she always knew I was going to be a writer because I was always narrating what was happening around me at any time, often singing what was happening, which she found especially annoying. But so yeah, no, I've been telling stories my whole life, but it wasn't until 2011 when I finally finished my first real, actual polished novel that I wanted to put out into the world. And I queried it and I got a lot of positive feedback, but a lot of the feedback was like, I don't know how to sell this. Like it's kind of weird, and it was kind of a weird book. And so back in 2011, I self-published it and then forgot about it because nobody was doing that yet. And so I had no idea how to, like, for me, it was just like, I did it, we're done. There was no talk about promoting it or actually, I expected my friends and family to buy it. And that was it. And I was happy with that. Fast forward, many years, and then all of a sudden it exploded. And I was like, man, if I had only done something with this, if I had kept doing this, back in 2011, imagine where we would be now. That same book I ended up rewriting, and I did get an agent. And again, they were like, still cool. We still don't know what to do with it. So I was like, you know what? Screw this. I'm going to stick with doing indie and just doing me. And that way I can write all the weird little books I want. I don't have to worry about it. And so that's kind of how I ended up writing, cozy paranormal mysteries. Was I was writing the books that I wanted to read. And I like reading weird little books with quirky little characters in strange circumstances. So that's what I ended up doing. That's what I love. And I don't intend to stop anytime soon.
So I see that you have a series called Some Delusions, or no, The Wayward Spirits Cozy Mysteries. That's what it's called.
Yeah. So Wayward Spirits Cozy Mysteries is my newest series. As a matter of fact, the second book is going to be coming out next week. I don't know when this is going to be publishing this video, but for me, it's going to be sometime next week. So that's exciting. I started writing this book. So let me give you some background on what it's about. It's basically a human woman commits a crime, and they say you need to go to rehab and deal with your anger issues. So they send her away to rehab, but she ends up at the wrong place, and she somehow ends up at a halfway house for endangered spirit or supernatural creatures. And so everyone there is like, if you're here, you must be one of us. So we're going to find out what your talent is. And she's like, I'm not one of you. This is a mistake. Like, I don't know what's happening. But, while she's there, of course, people start dying because it is a cozy mystery, of course.
Of course.
So she teams up with some of the other supernatural creatures in the house to solve, just to figure out what's going on. And she kind of unwittingly and very begrudgingly gets pulled into solving these mysteries. And I started writing this series a couple years ago. I had knee surgery. And I was laid up for a very, very long time, much longer than anybody expected. And I was feeling very broken, very defeated, et cetera. And so writing a story about broken creatures was what was very healing for me. And of course, I have to make things weird. So I couldn't write it just about normal human people. I had to write it about, broken gods and whatnot. But so the second book called Some Delusions May Apply comes out next week. I'm super excited about it. It's very much a romantic kind of cozy mystery. I typically shy away from writing love stories just because I don't know how to do that. I don't do that well. But one of the main characters in these books is Cupid. So you kind of have to have a love story element when there's Cupid involved. And it turns out, like, I love writing the tension between the characters and will they, won't they kind of thing. And I'm just having so much fun with them. It's just been a great experiment.
So you think throughout the series there'll be like kind of a slow burn between those two characters?
Absolutely. It's very much modeled on, have you ever seen the show Lucifer?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, so the main character, Lucifer, of course, is paired up with this detective named Chloe. And there's throughout the whole series, there's this kind of burning tension between the two of them. And my two characters were very much based on that dynamic. So for all the Lucifer fans, I think if you enjoy that show, you should definitely check this one out.
That would be a lot of fun because it's interesting to see how another person's take on how those characters might develop in a different setting would be, so to speak.
Right. And I think that's what's so compelling. So I don't write any fan fiction, but
Hmm.
occasionally I will like, it'll kind of end up in my world, like in my bubble, and I'll look at it. And I find that's what's so compelling about fan fiction, at least for me, is seeing how other people, like who they ship, first of all, but then also how they see the evolution of that character over time. Or if you take that character out of one setting and place it into another setting, how that changes, how they behave. And I find that fascinating, especially for me as a writer, because I firmly believe that authors kind of give birth to characters, but we don't
Hmm.
own them. Like once they're out there, they're open to interpretation, and what you see in your head is very valid. That is canon. And just because maybe that's not what I intended or not what I see, that doesn't make it any less true for you, because I birth the idea, but it takes form and becomes real in your mind. And so, seeing how all of these different characters and plots and settings and ideas are different for different people, for me as a writer, I find that really interesting.
So you've also written some other books and other series. Can you tell us a little bit about those?
Sure. So my personal favorite series, I know I'm not supposed to have favorites, but they're not
We all
like my
do.
kids. Yeah, we all do. The first paranormal mystery series that I wrote, that I am still writing, is a 9-book series called Lights, Camera, Mystery. The original title was Sinful House Mysteries, and I'll tell you why in a second. But I had to change it because about 6 months in, I found out some people thought Sinful House meant there was like sexy stuff happening.
Oh.
And which upon reflection after the fact, I was like, okay, yeah, I could see that, but my books couldn't be any less spicy. So I was like, let me change the title so people don't get the wrong idea. But the idea behind this series is the 7 deadly sins live in a house together on a reality TV show where they solve paranormal mysteries around town as they compete for votes from the viewers to become America's favorite sin. And the conceit is it's not really the 7 deadly sins. They're humans, they're people. They just happen to be psychics. And so the show kind of pitches them as the 7 deadly sins. And in the books, they are always called by their sin names.
Mhm.
So the main character is Pride, for example, who's not the vain kind of pride. In fact, this character is loosely kind of neurodivergent and doesn't like to admit when they're wrong, doesn't know how to say I'm sorry, doesn't want to ask for help because they want to be capable. Like they believe being self-sufficient means being capable. And so that's how I crafted that character without them being vainglorious and kind of annoying. And so yeah, so all the 7 deadly sins live in, and each book features a different pair. Well, there's always Pride, that's always the main character, but Pride is paired with a different sin throughout the series to solve different mysteries. And each of the mysteries have some sort of, it's almost like an X-Files feel, because it's very rarely truly magic what's happening. It's very, imagine like, there's shapeshifters and there's out-of-body experiences and there's precognition. So it's that kind of stuff that comes together to form the plots of these various paranormal stories. And that's been a lot of fun for me because I get to research all kinds of really cool stuff.
I imagine it's a lot of fun for your fans too, and that, they get to see like a cozy mystery with paranormal elements, and it's maybe a little bit of fantasy in there, and it's very popular right now. Do you find that is like a popular craft?
Oh man, it's a great question. So I think paranormal cozies in general are very popular. I think that most people though are looking for a specific kind of thing, like witch
Hmm.
cozy mysteries are very popular. Where maybe she owns a little bakery or a little bookstore and she's a witch and she's making her magic spells and stuff, and people love that. They eat that stuff up. I don't write that, like I said, I write kind of weird, quirky, offbeat, like who you wrote a reality series with the 7 deadly sins, what, you know what I mean? And it's like, but again, the people who get it they love it. You know, it's very divisive. Like maybe it's not for you, and I totally get that. But the people who love it, I've never gotten emails from readers before, like I do with this series. And people have questions. They just want to know, like, for example, the main character, I never mentioned their gender.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's never it's never explicitly stated what the main character's gender is. And I did that on purpose as a writing experiment for myself. Could I convincingly write a character that we don't know what their gender is? It's up to you to decide. And I get questions all the time. Did I miss something? What's Pride's gender? Is Pride a guy? Is Pride a lesbian? Like, who is Pride? And I'm like, you tell me. You know, who is the character to you? That's half the fun. Even my family is like, my mother-in-law is my biggest fan. And she's always like, but you can tell me. I'm like, oh no, I will never. I definitely have something in mind as I'm writing. But again, that's just what I'm thinking. That doesn't necessarily make it right or true. So yeah, so I think that genre in general is very, very popular. I'm not sure that the way that I've interpreted the genre is super popular, but maybe, maybe other people will be like, you know what, I want more of this. And so maybe other writers will write more of that. Like, one can hope.
Possibly.
Yeah.
It's cool that you have like a mystery within the mystery. That's really neat.
Yes. As a matter of fact, in most of the books, there are two mysteries happening at the same time.
Neat.
Yeah. And I know this is actually what you were referring to. You just happened to hit the nail right on the head. But yeah, in most of the books, there is the mystery that they are supposed to solve for the TV show. And which is usually something like, this is not true. I'm just making something up. So-and-so's cat has gone missing, but she keeps seeing it in an invisible tree. Or I don't know, I'm just making something ridiculous up. Solve that mystery. And they're like, okay, we're going to go solve this mystery. But along the way, they find a dead body. And so they're like, now we have to solve this mystery, which is not for the show. It's for their own satisfaction. And sometimes those two plot lines meet up. And sometimes they don't. But it's been really fun to kind of weave that together, the supernatural mystery that they're supposed to solve with the very real world dead body that they're supposed to solve. And that's been really challenging, but also really rewarding as a storyteller to see, can I make this multi-layered thing in a very simple genre, right? Cozy mysteries are pretty simple. But to do like a multi-layered thing that where a storyline spans a couple of different books before you get any real resolution, I think that's one of the things that makes this series so compelling, is that each book is a self-contained story, but then there's also a 3-book arc that spans the whole series. So there's three book arcs, and then there is a series-long arc that doesn't get resolved until the very, very end. And so no matter what you're doing, you're going to get some kind of resolution, because if you finish the book, you're going to at least get what happened in this episode, right?
Yeah.
But you get to watch the characters develop. You get to see these bigger storylines unfold. You get to see, the city is called Odyssey, California. And so you get to see kind of more what's happening in Odyssey. It becomes more of a real place. The more that time goes on, the deeper in the series you get, you kind of start to understand why all this weird stuff is happening. Like, it's, why do people keep dying? Where are all these ghosts coming from? Why is everyone here a psychic? And you kind of start to figure out why that is. That will be resolved by the end of the series. So yes, many mysteries within mysteries in this series, which has been just really fun.
So for your new series, have you planned like to have a certain number of books, or are you just leaving that up in the air?
Right now, I've planned for 8. And the reason I planned 8 is because the books, because she was sentenced to a rehab center. It takes place, she's sentenced for a year to spend a year at this rehab center. So each 2 books covers 1 season. So we start the very, very beginning of spring, and I think we're going to end at winter. But my husband is like, I don't know if you should end at winter, like you should end at spring, like rebirth. So we might get a book 9, a single like book 9 at the end that kind of comes completely full circle, where she does where she sees spring coming back. I don't know if we'll do that. We may just end it at winter, but right now it's planned at 8 with 2 books in each season.
And can you tell us something that you really love about your character? What your favorite thing is about her?
Oh my gosh. So my main character is named Temperance Swift. And which it's kind of funny because we find out that her actual her name is Temperance Hindinger. And at one point she decides, she's like, I can't be Hindinger for the rest of my life. No, I'm going to go with Swift, which is her ex-husband's last name. But my favorite thing about her is that she is a spoiled brat. She's from a wealthy family. She has never had to work a day in her life. She's very pampered, very princess. And now she's getting a dose of the real world. And she kind of has to figure out how to the real world. I mean, it's a supernatural clinic, but she's she's living in a small town in New York is where the clinic is. And she is learning they're forcing her to learn how to cook, because part of the conceit of the story is that the people who are taking care of her are like, you're not a very good person, but it's not your fault. You were raised by people in a society, in a world that is not great. It's just not very good. It's very focused on looks and money and success, but it's not focused on doing good and bringing good into the world. And so they, as part of healing her, because that's a, rehab for broken creatures, they're trying to heal her, not just by helping her find her witchy talent, which they're convinced she has, but also by teaching her human skills to be a better person. So they're teaching her how to cook, how to take care of herself, it's a farm. So they're teaching her how to tend to the earth, how to interact with animals, how to bring your full self into a job and interact with people who have to work for a living, and to kind of respect what that looks like and what life looks like for normal people. And watching her develop is a lot of fun, but also when she's snarky and sassy and she's like, I wouldn't be caught dead in a dress that costs less than $500. It's fun because I don't know anybody like that in real life, obviously. But, to imagine a rich person having to survive in a completely foreign world with normal people has just been a lot of fun. And writing her has been very entertaining. And also the banter between her and Cupid, because he's very buttoned up and very, he's very British and very sophisticated and elegant. And he likes to put her in her place and just remind her, I know you think that you're all that because you grew up with money, but I'm a literal god. So, and it's a lot of fun.
Do you have like a particular process when you're writing? Like, do you have like a favorite spot, a favorite drink, or anything like that?
Oh, a particular process. Sorry, the
Yeah.
video froze for a second. No. I'm a very, very much right by the seats of my pants, discovery writer, or whatever you want to call it. The only planning I do is I generally know how long the book is going to be based on how many plot lines I have going on. And so I do kind of think about my beats in terms of, okay, at 50%, I do want to make sure I have like a midpoint twist. At 75%, I do want to have like an all is lost, everything is terrible kind of moment, whatever that means for the story. And in a mystery story, it's different, of course, than kind of a more traditional genre novel. So I do keep those beats in mind, and I do use Scrivener so I can always see kind of where my progression is in a story, so I can kind of make sure my pacing is on track. But beyond that, I don't do any planning, down to the point where I don't even know I don't know who did it when I start writing the novel. I don't know how it's going to get resolved. Especially in my Sinful House books, because they are in an episodic TV format. At the end of the book, it always says, okay, next time on Sinful House, and then you find out what the next mystery is going to be, right? Wrath and Pride have to investigate an old what's it called, or a mortuary. They have to investigate a mortuary where the bodies have started talking. And I write that, and I'm like, awesome, that's going to be a great book. I have no idea how that's going to play out. And once that book is published, I'm on the hook. So there's no going back. So sometimes I'm like, well, I don't know how it's going to happen. But it always, always, always works out. And so, which has taught me to 100% trust the process. In the second book in that series, which is called Only Sin Deep, I had no idea how everything was going to get resolved. And I was kind of in my head about it a little bit. And I dictate because I have weird repetitive stress injuries. And so typing can kind of be painful. So I dictate a lot. And I was outside. I was about 70% done with this book. And I still didn't know who did it. We were 5% away from the big reveal. And I'm like, I don't know. And I'm walking around, I'm dictating, and words start coming out of my mouth that I literally didn't know were going to happen. And as I was speaking them, my face, I was like, oh my God, where did that come from? And I was like, that's actually so cool. Like, which is why I would tell anybody who will listen, for me as a writer, I don't so much make up what happens as I transmit what happens. I feel like I hear the story unfolding, like it's being told to me, like it's being whispered to me, and I'm just writing down what happens. Because I did not see that coming. How do you not see it coming if you're making it up? You know? And it's to this day, it's people love that story. They're like, that is amazing. I did not see that twist coming. And I'm like, oh, you know what? Neither did I. So that makes two of us. But it's been, every once in a while, like right now, I'm on book 6 right now, which is the end of the second 3-book arc. So I have a lot of loose ends to tie up. And the actual mystery that's happening right now is that the team is trying to find a missing woman who was reported missing, but she's not missing. And the team is like, and the people who reported her missing are like, but that lady that you think is that's not her. Like, so our lady's still missing. We don't know what's going on. It's a pretty intricate plot. I have many different storylines I have to tie up right now. And I will be honest with you, I'm not entirely sure how it's going to work out. I'm at the 50% mark right now. And as I've been writing, I take notes so that I don't forget things. And I'm like, oh, well, what if this happens? What if it's this person and their motivation is this? And then 3 days later, I'm like, oh no, that's definitely not what happens. And you just keep going. But so far, life has taught me that this process works for me. So why mess with a good thing? I'm just going to keep doing it,
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me about this. It was very, very interesting talking to you about everything with your books and your process and your new series, which is coming out. And we'll put the links in the description so that anybody who's interested in having a look, you can just click on the link and go and see your books. They're on Amazon. Are they anywhere else?
Yes, they are wide. So pretty much anywhere where you get your books, you can at least request that they get it for you, and they can get it for you. But yes, they are all on Amazon. So not on Kindle Unlimited, unfortunately, but anywhere else.
That's great. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Have a good one.